You're listening to the Electric Surge Network.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and welcome back to a whole new year of the 430 movie. This week, it's New Year's resolutions with your favorite 430 movie hosts, Steve Melching.
Happy New Year.
Darren Doctorman.
21.
Nice.
And last but not least, Ashley Edward Miller.
Happy New Year.
Wow, we made it, guys. We made it to 2021.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Thank God.
Everybody's good and healthy.
Yeah, but you know what would be weird? It would be weird, like, we're kind of recording this now, like, if one of us, well, yeah, I mean, that's
You know
a little
what?
morbid.
I just told you, like, we're going to record this like we're in 2020, and you blow the illusion. It took
I
you
couldn't
20
help
seconds
myself. It's
to blow the
not
illusion.
2020 anymore.
20 seconds! Like, we're going to
Ashley,
pretend
spoiler,
that
Miller.
it's January when this airs.
But now
And
I'm
then you
saving
can't
us a
even
lot of
go-
re-editing, maybe, in case Ryan...
No, we're not. We don't
Reynolds
re-edit.
plays
Once we
one of
start, we don't stop. There's no stopping. There's no stopping the train. We're like Silver Streak. We don't stop. So
Don't stop,
anyway,
won't stop.
now I'll talk about the fact that what today is the 45th anniversary of the release of The Black Hole.
Yes, we
Yes.
all know what
So
they
for all of you at home, I want you to get out of your seats. I want you to reach out and turn on Disney Plus. I don't
Steve,
want
it's
you to do
great to
any of
see
that
you
stuff.
after 45 years.
It's as if
I
millions
don't
of voices suddenly cried out in terror and was suddenly silenced.
Because Ashley is going to tell you we're actually recording this in 1979.
That's
We've
right.
just been waiting to
Dude,
air
that
it.
would be awesome. We're recording this so fast, we've traveled back in time. To
Well, that's the only
1978.
time that we can possibly talk about the black hole and be excited about it.
That's not true.
No. You don't give it enough credit for what it did right.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right, I don't.
Okay, so what is New Year's Resolutions about? New Year's Resolutions is a show in which we're going to each pick a movie, and the others don't know what they are, in which we've never seen, a movie classic we've never seen, that we resolve to watch. And so we're going to reveal a movie that heretofore we had never seen, that we watched over the holidays,
Right.
and are now going to program that as part of the 430 movie. So it'll be very interesting to see what these classic films are that somehow were missing from our repertoire of movies that we had not been exposed to.
We
Now,
all
over the years, I think
have our blind spots.
we all have our
We're
they do.
cinephiles. We are students of film history, but everyone has their blind spots.
Last year we picked a film for each other, which
Right.
was very nice. It's sort of Secret Santa. This year we're doing New Year's resolutions where we pick the film for ourselves. So it'll be interesting to see. I think we were all very happy with the films we got last year.
You know, Steve, I've watched movies before and I don't recall ever having a blind spot before.
I don't know about any blind spots.
Before we program our week and reveal our picks, I want to ask you, obviously, hopefully 2021 is the year we go back to the movies, back to the theaters. What are you guys looking forward to in 2021? Steve?
I think the year 2021
Ashley?
is the year we make contact.
Well, there is that strange, mysterious signal coming from Proxima Centauri.
I think it's Mick Jagger, honestly.
And those mysterious monoliths.
Yes.
So, but is there something that you're really excited about finally, whether it's something you're getting to see or something that's coming out? I mean, there's been so much that's been sitting on the shelf.
I can't even
Obviously-
remember what's supposed to be out. I mean, it's so out of the loop. I guess Dune is coming out eventually, or I don't know, Top
Maybe.
Gun, or
I'll tell you what I'm excited about coming out. After working for 2.5 years, my goddamn secret show on Netflix is finally
Yay.
coming out this year.
Nice.
That's exciting. And
Yeah.
and in a few weeks, you're going to be able to reveal what it is to our audience. And that's really exciting stuff.
Damn right.
I think we started on this show in the early days of the 4:30 movie.
Yes, we did.
Yes,
It was,
you did.
Yeah, it was October of 2018.
I remember when you guys first went to work on it, and we in fact you told us at the studio. In fact,
Yeah.
I remember it was before you even hired Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were telling me, I think I'm going to hire Steve. I said, oh, that's great.
I'm going to give Steve money.
I like money.
I like Steve.
God, that was a while. That was a while ago. So,
That's TV. You know, this animation takes a long friggin' time,
It does,
especially
man.
with
It's
the
like a big
COVID.
movie. Yeah.
especially with the COVID. Yep. That's right. And we got the second season of Pandora will be premiering on Amazon Prime. So now you can watch it without commercials. So check that out. Darren, we're going to get 100 Twitter questions now. Is Darren going to have Star Trek: The Motion Picture Director's Edition coming out this year?
Please.
Well, it is the 20th anniversary of the Director's Edition, so I think it would be a good idea.
Here.
It would be a great idea.
I think it
You're
would
wrong.
be great. I think it would be.
a great
I'm all
idea.
for it.
Make it so.
Well, I think
Wrong
look,
generation.
I'm speaking without knowing anything about what's going on. So I would just say
Traveling
that,
without moving.
traveling through time. But I would say that given the state of streaming and how much money's being thrown, and they're looking at the Snyder cut and stuff, all I can say is I think Star Trek: The Motion Picture Director's Edition would be a good investment for something called the Paramount Network, Paramount
kidding.
Plus. So I hope.
You are going to have Star Trek movies on your Star Trek channel?
And speaking of Star Trek, if you haven't already, check out our sister show, Inglorious TREKSPERTS, where over the last few weeks we've been counting down. It felt like years, but it was only a couple of weeks. The
Hours could
101
seem like days.
101 greatest sci-fi and fantasy episodes of all time. It was quite a massive undertaking, as Ashley and Darren will attest to.
Nearly 8 hours of content.
I just got the first episode delivered today. It's 2.5 hours.
Oh my God, dude. It's a Lord of the Rings movie. That's crazy. I
know,
remember when we all got to Rivendell. That was cool, but
this thing had more endings than Return of the King. Oh my God. Yeah. But anyway, well, look, let's this is an exciting week. So we were talking about things we're excited about in 2021, besides actually leaving your front door. Tell me, what are the things you're excited about? It doesn't have to be movies, just in general.
I just want to
Darren?
see my friends again in person and just hang out.
yes.
Well, sorry, you're not going to get that.
Well,
Forget
hopefully we'll all get the vaccine. We'll get no Lieutenant Yar.
No vaccine. Yeah.
And no vaccine.
No Lieutenant Yar.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to round up all that Ritalin, you see.
That's
And
right.
It has to be processed.
The Ritalin,
Takes a
you
long
mean?
time.
Like the ADD
No.
drug?
No,
No.
Ritalin.
Ritalin from...
From
No, I know.
Requiem for Methuselah.
I just think it's kind of funny.
it
We're
is
gonna
kind of
send that
funny.
little robot out. That
Yeah.
little robot, Vincent and old Bob.
That
they're
would
gonna
be,
be in the-
M5. Another M5.
Another M5 wasn't quite as successful as Dr. Dijkstra was hoping for. Oh wait, or
Or
Flint.
Captain Dunstan.
But it was successful at straining pasta.
Clearly, very, 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 very good at that. In fact, that would probably be a good thing to use M5 for, because Flint was also in a previous life Emerald.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart.
Which would be
In
amazing.
addition to Da Vinci and Brahms, he was also Martha Stewart.
All right, you got too much Star Trek in your 4:30 movie, folks.
I know, that's true. There are a lot of people that don't listen to this for Star Trek. They listen to it for movies. So why don't we get going with Steve Melching? Steve, New Year's resolutions. What was your pick?
This was tricky because I went to film school. I saw tons of movies in film school, and go to film festivals, and I see a lot of movies. But like everyone, I have my blind spots. And at first, my strategy was to go back through the movies we've talked about on the 4:30 movie, and look for somebody's picks that I had not seen before. Because I probably got at least a dozen here. that I haven't seen that you guys have talked about. But then I thought, we've already talked about those movies, so I'm not going to do that. Then I looked at for some sort of famous films that were gaps in my cinema learning, and a lot of them just seemed like maybe a little too, I don't know, hoity-toity, or I don't know, artsy-fartsy for the 4:30 movie. So I settled on one that has been on a lot of top 100 lists. It is an Academy Award winner. And it's a movie that came out that I missed, I think, for two reasons. One, because it came out during a very busy time in my life when it was difficult for me to get to movies. And secondly, because I think there's something about the marketing of this movie that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I felt like I knew what the movie was and I didn't particularly need to see it. So I didn't. And despite the fact that it was a very successful movie, both financially and, at the awards, I just never caught up with it because it's a movie that wasn't maybe super accessible, although it's not like it's out of print or anything like that. And thankfully, this last year, a new 4K edition of the movie came out. So I ordered it, and I do not have a 4K player, but it has a Blu-ray disc in it. And the Blu-ray disc is not of the release version of the film, I discovered too late. It's of the director's cut. So I watched the director's cut of this movie that was put together in 2002. So anyway, my pick, the movie that I've never seen is 1988's Cinema Paradiso.
Presenting Cinema Paradiso, the Academy Award winner for Best Foreign Film. Every night, the streets were empty because inside, lovers held hands, children laughed, and the routine of everyday life was forgotten. Because here at the Cinema Paradiso, someone is making their dreams come true. In this little town, the movies are more than just entertainment. They're a way of life. But to this little boy, they are life itself. For the Cinema Paradiso gave this little boy a father, a lover, and a future. Cinema Paradiso, where a young man shared his magic with the town he loved. Cinema Paradiso, the Academy Award-winning picture for Best Foreign Film, capturing the highest box office gross since My Life as a Dog. The film Siskel and Ebert gave 2 thumbs up, and Rolling Stone called magic, romantic, and fun. Cinema Paradiso, a celebration of youth, friendship, and the everlasting magic of the movies.
Which directed by Giuseppe Tornatore, and it's a classic foreign film. And I think the advertising that rubbed me the wrong way was like, oh, it's the story of this kind of cute little Italian moppet in the post-war Italy, and he develops a heartwarming relationship with a cranky projectionist and discovers his love of cinema. Like, okay, great. I know that just didn't particularly appeal to me. So then I finally watched the movie, and yes, of course, that's a major element of the movie. But I had no idea that a good major chunk of the movie takes place after this kid grows up and is a teenager and has become the projectionist. And the director's cut, I don't know, has anyone else seen the director's cut?
I haven't even seen the not director's cut.
Oh, okay.
Well, Steve, if I may, I also have not seen Cinema Paradiso.
Are you kidding?
And And I purchased the 4K director's. I did the same thing. I got the 4K and realized the director's cut, and have not yet watched it. It is not my pick, thankfully, this week.
Thank God.
But it is on my shelf. It came very close to being my pick, and thankfully was not. But yeah, I can't really help you with this.
Okay, well then that helps me. So I won't spoil. I'll talk about it without spoiling it because it's a terrific movie. But it's not.
Aaron, you've seen it though.
I have not.
Whoa!
Whoa! It's a quadfecta.
Wow! Like I thought I was going a little more mainstream on this pick. It's as far as foreign films go, Cinema Paradiso is one of those ones that more people have seen.
The thing is, I think we were probably all pretty busy in 1988.
I was in the middle of film school, and I just even though I was seeing,
I was
plenty
figuring
of
out how to talk to chicks. So
I actually did see Roberto Bernini versus
Roberto Bernini. I want to make love to you by a river.
Well, there's another major element of this movie aside from the relationship between the kid and the projectionist. Is there's a love story that I didn't know about, and during the teenage years, the main character Salvatore falls in love with the new girl in town, and she's from kind of a bourgeoisie family, and her father doesn't really want her hanging around with the poor little kid whose father died in the war and is poor and works at the little cinema house. But they fall deeply in love, and it ends sadly. And then there's a whole other chunk of the movie that's the director's cut. Harvey Weinstein cut out 51 minutes of this movie.
Otherwise known as Harvey Scissorhands.
Yes, the director's cut is nearly 3 hours long, and there's a whole third act of the movie that revolves around the adult present day version of Salvatore coming back to the small town and reuniting with a lot of the people that are still there. And we learn why his budding romance with Elena failed. And it's really sad. It's really kind of heartbreaking. And I got to say that element of the movie stuck with me. It put me in this funk that lasted like hours. Like I was just like thinking about that sort of misconnections and like, what if, because I think we all have those stories when we were kids or teenagers or whatever, what if I had called that girl that I had a crush on, or what if I went to that event and met someone special, like the road's not taken sort of thing. And it was very sort of moving and thought provoking to me that way. Although the movie, I have not seen the release version of the movie that doesn't have any of that. So that whole sort of doomed romance is just left in the past as sort of a wistful remembrance. So nobody gets any kind of closure. And I know a lot of critics don't like the release version. They feel that it was actually a good idea that they cut all this stuff out of it. And now once I get a 4K player, I will watch the release version and come to my own conclusion. But anyway, it really is there's more to Cinema Paradiso than you might think based on how the film is sold, is more marketed.
Wow. What an interesting choice. And obviously what a sort of a beloved modern classic. And it's amazing to me that none of us have seen it. I mean, there was so much hype. Yeah, there was so much hype around it.
I know, that's why I thought all you guys would have seen this thing, because I felt like
all of us would have picked it.
I felt like I was the only person that I know that had never seen this movie.
And it celebrates movies. You would think
a
movie that celebrates movies is something that we would all obviously be drawn to.
And for the longest time, I'd never seen Risky Business, and that was like a running gag. People used to give me crap. How you've never seen Risky Business? It's a classic.
How did you never see Risky Business?
I've never seen Risky Business.
I didn't like the marketing. Tom Cruise and the tighty whities. Like, I don't want to see that.
Risky Business is a great movie.
Well, I've seen it since, and okay. It's great.
You like it now, right?
Oh yeah. I just there was for the 20 years after it came out, I never saw it.
Well, I saw it with my mother.
Oh my God!
Dude,
I actually saw it with a
okay.
bunch of friends and my mother, but
The train scene must have been fantastic with Mom.
it was a little mortifying. Yes,
The
Yeah.
fourth, the
but I love and
We
risky
could use
business.
a good man like Joel.
Princeton could use a man like Joel. And that is definitely a movie that should go on our movies that were on HBO every day.
I didn't have HBO.
Yeah,
I
you gotta
mean, that's
do that.
another reason why I didn't see it. Like I didn't like those kind of cool. I don't know. It wasn't a movie that appealed to me.
I didn't like good movies. I didn't like cool movies. I love Risky Business. That was like one of my favorite movies in high school. Still, I just and because it's elevated teen comedy. It's like it's not like I hated stuff like Porky's, and My Chauffeur and all that. That low rent crap.
Good, dude. I think you give Porky short shrift.
And
Porky's is. I mean, we can have that conversation.
I hated all that stuff, but
so.
man, Risky Business. Paul Brickman. It's shot beautifully. That
Tangerine Dream score.
Great cast. Great lines. Who's the U-boat commander? I mean, I think I picked it for Teen Week, High School Week. I picked it for High School Week. So I'm not gonna go through it again. But boy, I love Risky Business. I'm glad that you finally saw it.
Well, let's hear it for the little enterprisers.
How do you get from that?
So anyway,
Okay, well,
Cinema
Steve, that was a great
Paradiso.
pick. See it. I feel like we're Siskel and Ebert. Cinema Paradiso. So thumbs up. See it. Okay, so that brings us now to Tuesday and Darren Doctorman. Did you also approach this like Steve, where you wanted to pick a film that you hadn't seen that was on the show?
No.
Or were you looking? Okay,
No.
there you go.
What the way I did it was I started going through the lists of stuff that was available on streaming. I started looking through, the classic movie lists, or all the sort of dramas and things that I never really gravitated toward. And I think I finally found it on HBO Max, and it's interesting because it was for the talk of all of serious Hollywood back in 1980 when it came out. And, it was very serious, very, actor-based, very well written, very well directed by a first-time director named Robert Redford. And it wound up winning the Best Picture for
I have seen it.
in 1981. And that movie is called Ordinary People.
In this typical town, in this comfortable home, 3 ordinary people are about to live an extraordinary story.
It's starting all over again. The lying, the covering up, the disappearing for hours. I will not stand for it. I can't stand it. I really can't.
What kind of psychiatrists are you? They all believe in dreams.
I do believe in dreams. Only sometimes I want to know what's happening when you're awake.
I don't want to see any doctors or counselors. This is my family. And if we have problems, then we will solve those problems in the privacy of our own home.
I knew something was wrong even before he tried to kill himself.
I think it is a very private matter.
You never came to the hospital. How do you know about the hospital?
Your mother did come to the hospital, Conrad, and you know that.
I just don't know how to deal with it anymore.
Why are you hassling me, huh? Why are you trying to make me mad? Are you mad? No!
Yeah.
Oh my God, so good, dude.
Just
So
wait. So I had always sort of steered clear of it because all the descriptions of it felt like a really turgid, horrible time at the movies. And I was not disappointed. However, the performances are amazing. The problem is I hate all these people. But
you never thought you could hate Mary Tyler Moore.
I know. That's what's so amazing about it.
A chilly mother.
She is an absolute stone cold biatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does an amazing job portraying that. And I'm wondering if Grant Tinker knew that side. I just don't know. But she is amazing. The funny thing is that Donald Sutherland, who plays the father in the film, is playing a very sort of a good-natured character. He cares about his family. He cares about his son. He cares about basically everyone. But the problem is the nature of Donald Sutherland as an actor makes me think he's out for evil. So I don't trust anything he's saying.
Or he's a pod person.
Well, that too. But it's very interesting because the personalities of the actors themselves are influencing my reaction to the film.
Their personas that they bring.
Yeah. They're so huge that it's tainting everything. Judd Hirsch is in it. He is a psychiatrist
and a taxi driver.
Well, see, he wasn't yet, but
not a taxi driver.
Yeah, he looked like he didn't pick up Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
Right. Although that would be an interesting matchup.
Okay.
Oh, Jodie Foster was in my cab.
The Muppets taxi driver with Kermit.
You looking at me?
You're talking to me?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
You must be talking to me. There's no one else here.
Oh my goodness. There you go, Muppet fans. There's one for you.
All right.
So I start watching this film, and it is very much what I expected it to be. Basically, a very sort of stage play interpretation of this novel by Judith Guest, with a screenplay by Alma Sargent, who I knew from What About Bob? Also a very psychiatrist-based movie. And I think he had a sort of a strange attachment to psychiatry and sort of delving into that world, because there was a lot more of it in the What About Bob script that was cut out. Anyway, there's plenty of it in Ordinary People. And, there are the expected scenes of the breakthroughs and breakdowns and, really emotional dealings between all of the characters. And the scenes between the family are great. And it seems like that was where the most attention was paid to it. However, there are other scenes dealing with Timothy Hutton's school friends and a girlfriend that he is starting to see, who is played by Elizabeth McGovern, which is interesting because I've been rewatching Downton Abbey, and she, of course,
Elizabeth Montgomery. Never mind. Sorry.
No, that's Elizabeth Montgomery. But she plays the sort of the wife of the master of the house, and she's much more seasoned now, but she's a teenager in this, and it's very odd because I can't stop seeing that other character,
Lady Grantham.
Yes, Lady Grantham. But it's interesting because the scenes that are not between the family members themselves or the family members and Judd Hirsch seem kind of flat and added on. And it's very odd because it seems like that not a lot of attention or concern was paid to those because perhaps they were, not as interesting. I don't know what it is. But as I was watching it, I felt very uneven about the whole thing. Primarily because, as I said before, I don't like any of the characters, on a personal level. They are, mostly rich people who, live in the upper sections of Chicago, and they're not very pleasant, and they're not very. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so disconnected with it because I don't really know any people like that. But it didn't convince me that they were real. It convinced me that they were sort of someone's idea of what those people might be like. So I don't know. It wasn't reaching out to me. In the end, I enjoyed watching the film. I enjoyed watching the performances. And there are some moments that are very, devastating and emotional. But it just didn't pull me in. And it's a very interesting thing. And I'd like to find out more of why it didn't, because there's no real reason why it didn't, but it's a very interesting thing. And I watched it completely awake. I didn't, I was very fresh, and I watched it with clear eyes.
You weren't super high?
I'm never super high.
Oh, okay.
Just on life.
Just on life and movies. But so it won 4 Academy Awards at the 1981 award ceremonies.
Well, I got a funny story about Ordinary People.
Did you see it with your mom?
No, no, I did not. I was dating a girl who said that in order to, I was supposed to meet her family for the first time. And she said, to understand her family and her whole relationship with her family, I had to watch Ordinary People.
Oh my God.
And I said, I would, try and get around. She said, no, you have to watch it now. Wow. And this is before streaming and everything. I don't remember. I had to go out to like the freaking video store or whatever and get this fucking movie. And and it's like, and then she called, have you watched the movie yet? Have you watched the movie yet? Have you watched the movie yet? And I finally watched the movie. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to break up with this girl now.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. And
did you ask her if she was the dead sibling?
Well, the irony is now she's a very successful psychotherapist.
That's fascinating.
But yeah, that was why I would, and it's interesting because of course, obviously it's no secret to everybody listens to the show, that I'm a big fan of Woody Allen. And so of course, I come from that whole Jewish family side of things, which is nothing like the Robert Redford waspy side of depicted in Ordinary People. So I'm not used to these cold, icy families. I'm used to sort of families that yell and scream at each other, and
families that have no problem with expressing emotion.
Yeah, exactly. The most un-Vulcan-like of families. So I found this almost like anthropology. Again, you can't argue with the fact that it's a very well made and well crafted film.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's so cold, dare I say frigid, that you would. It's very it's very difficult to appreciate beyond the artistry of it.
Yeah.
And
I rise in the defense of Ordinary People. I love this movie, and I think that it's so devastating, and it's so honest. It's just you don't watch this movie and go, I watched a movie. Like, that you watched that movie. And I think in 1981 there really hadn't been anything that was quite like that. The emotions behind that film and in that film are so raw that they only work in a family that has difficulty expressing emotion. And it's one of those films that's had like a massive impact on me. It's like, it's funny, I mentioned before that my show was dropping in March. I feel like I'm Mark Altman all of a sudden, but but
that's a good thing, Ashley. That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. But it's like we'll talk more about it when it comes out. But there's weirdly there's a lot of ordinary people in that show. My God, Sally Field, she's a nightmare. She's a horror. But she's a recognizable horror to me.
Wait.
Sally Field? When I say Sally Field, God damn it, you know what I meant. Anyway. Yeah.
No,
so,
what did you mean?
Mary Tyler Moore?
Yes, thank you.
Because
same thing.
No.
Same thing.
Here's the funny thing. Because Sally Field's in another movie like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget the name of it. But there's another movie that is like this that is Terms of Endearment.
Yes, exactly.
And I've never seen that one either.
I don't love, by the way.
And I can't tell I couldn't tell the difference.
It's a cancer movie.
The cancer movie.
Song.
I don't love Terms of Endearment either. And I don't love Kramer versus Kramer.
Right.
And I really need to see Shoot the Moon.
Yeah.
But
I do love Ordinary People, and I do love Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah,
but
Kramer versus Kramer is good.
But yeah, that's just me. But come on. I mean,
but what about Kramer versus Kramer?
I mean, she's fucking.
What is Kramer versus Seinfeld?
She's a nightmare. she's like one of the best screen villains of all time.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Which is what I learned about this girl's mother.
Yeah, right. She's one of the best screen villains of all time.
You know, that's funny because when I was dating a woman I was getting serious with, I made her watch Free Enterprise so that when she met my friends, she would know. And
you made her watch,
and
she would be scared.
Yeah, somehow she didn't break up with me. She married me. So there you go.
See, it had a happy ending. That's so funny.
So that's
God.
Wow, I want to, I haven't seen Ordinary People. I've only seen it once, and it was probably 25, 30 years ago. And I really liked it when I saw it. And I haven't really thought about it much since then. And now I kind of want to see it again. So if you say it's on HBO Max, I guess I know where to find it.
Yes, you do.
On HBO Max.
Yeah. now that it's on my Roku, that I can watch it on the Roku.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? This is a really interesting week. I'm not going to say anything else. This is a really interesting week shaping up to be, and unexpected movies, given how the slant often falls into genre. It's interesting, the two films that we've looked at so far.
Well, I think by the nature of this experiment, it's like we're stepping outside our comfort zones, because it was something we really wanted to see. We would have seen it.
That's
like
correct.
something
That's
that slipped through the cracks or something. It's like, I don't know. I heard it was good, but I just never got around to it.
But we all got to watch Cinema Paradiso and compare notes on that. Now, I mean, because we hit the, not even the trifecta, the quadfecta, like you said. So, and by the way, I don't know if you saw that David Giler died today.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
so
which is so sad. So, steward of the Alien franchise. Boy, 2020 just doesn't stop. Peter Lamont died this week.
Yeah.
The great production designer. Really sad by all. Everything I've ever heard about him is he was just a total sweetheart. Wonderful guy. Did you work with him? Jeremy Bulloch, Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
I didn't work with Peter Lamont, but I knew plenty of people who did, and he was, and apparently he was an incredibly resilient person too, because he worked with James Cameron twice.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing. Actually.
I also heard he had an incredible memory. I have his book about the Bond movies, but he apparently he just remembered every like he could tell you what he has for lunch on like Goldfinger, which is like amazing. So really all very sad losses. So okay, that brings us to Wednesday and Ashley, and it'll be very interesting to see if you stay in the box, go out of the box, what happens to the box? Is the box wrapped? Is the box unwrapped?
In a week like this, look, it's difficult to go out of the box. Now, admittedly, there are ways to go out of the box. I thought about what is it that I haven't seen that would really upset Mark? Like on a not like I can't believe he hasn't seen that way, but like I can't believe he hasn't seen that, and why the is he talking about it way? But I figured you'd seen Star 80.
I love Star 80.
See, there you go. Now that's why I couldn't pick it, because you love it. All I can say about my pick is what we have here.
Really?
What we have on our hands is a dead shark. I am speaking, of course, of Jaws, the Revenge.
Wow. This is what you picked?
No, God damn it. I'm not talking about
You're talking about Annie Hall. You're talking about Annie Hall.
Yes, I am.
You're talking about memories.
I finally saw Annie Hall. A relationship is like a shark. It has to keep moving,
of course.
or it dies.
What I wouldn't give for a large sock with horse manure in it. What do you do when you get stuck on a movie line with a guy like this behind you?
Wait a minute, why can't I give my opinion? It's a free country.
He can give you. You have to give it so loud. I mean, aren't you ashamed to pontificate like that? And the funny part of it is, Marshall McLuhan, you don't know anything about Marshall McLuhan's work.
Really? I happen to teach a class at Columbia called TV, Media, and Culture. So I think that my insights into Mr. McLuhan, well, have a great deal of validity.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, that's funny, because I happen to have Mr. McLuhan right here. So, yeah, just let me come over here a second.
Oh,
Tell him.
I heard what you were saying. You know nothing of my work. You mean my whole fallacy is wrong. How you ever got to teach a course in anything is totally amazing.
Boy, if life were only like this.
See, at first I thought you were going for, what we have here is a failure to communicate.
To communicate,
right, that's what
which
I
is
thought
the
too.
way he wants it.
Yeah.
Well, he gets it. No, that I've seen, and no man can eat 32 eggs. Let me tell you, I've tried.
Okay, so
the gas is just off the hook.
let's get to the important part. Ashley
Yes.
saw Annie Hall, finally.
I finally saw Annie Hall. Other than like randomly, vaguely sort of seeing various scenes from movies out of the corner of my eye, or watching, I have vague memories of seeing Sleeper when I was.
Yeah.
I just got my Woody Allen cherry pop.
Yeah, I mean, that
and
part
I
when
have to tell you,
the Star Destroyer goes over Tatooine is amazing.
it is.
Oh wait,
I have to tell you, Mark. Here is my assessment of Annie Hall.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Are you ready?
Don't say anything stupid.
It is. It's awesome.
Yes, you could stay as my friend.
Diane Keaton is luminous.
Yeah,
La-di-da.
Woody Allen is very funny, very relatable. I really thought going in, my problem was going to be relating to Woody Allen because he's so nebbish. No, it works. Here's what I think is like kind of the coolest thing about this movie. So when you meet Annie Hall, you meet her at like the nadir of her relationship with Alvy Singer, with Woody Allen's character. You don't like her. She comes in, she's negative, she's whatever, like he's kind of an a-hole about the whole thing, but the way you meet her, she's late. She's like kind of with him, which is exactly the opposite of how you'd think that you would introduce, the character.
Easy there.
An angel just had its coffee. An angel just kind of, it's like, it's the opposite of how you think you would introduce, your titular character. But you meet her there. And what's smart about it is, like, you get this sense of her, and you also kind of get the sense that he's kind of earned it. But by starting there and then going to how they met and how sort of wonderful and weird and wacky she is, you go, oh, I get it. Like, the relationship with Alvy has kind of made her into this. So from go that they're wrong for each other, but you also know that they're connected.
But here's the crazy thing, Ashley. That was not the way it was written. Originally, it was much more linear, and it was a much longer picture. And Woody was making the transition from doing these big broad comedies to a more grounded movie. And it was actually his editor who famously wrote the book, When the Shooting Starts, the Cutting Begins, that, helped come up with this way of cutting it, which is why it's such a brisk 90 minutes. The non-linear structure, the way that you meet Annie Hall and everything like that. So he deserves a lot of the credit.
Then God bless him, because I thought that was really brilliant. I love how just snappy it is. I love, it's surreal without being self-indulgent. It's not indulgent, it's like you don't have to stand in line for a movie and listen to a guy behind you talk about Fellini, and think about how indulgent he is. But at the same time, it's like, it's arty in a smart way, right? Like, it breaks the fourth wall all over the place. Yep. You have him talking to other characters about the movie. There's a brilliant scene where he's talking to his therapist while she's talking to her therapist, and it's like, we never have sex. It's 3 nights a week. Like, he wants to have sex all the time. How can you have sex 3 nights a week? Yeah. It's so great. Diane Keaton is amazing. He's great. The supporting cast is great. And let's talk about the supporting cast. Christopher Walken as Dwayne. I imagine the flames just rising up from the gasoline, and Jeff Goldblum, right? Like,
I forgot my mantra.
My mantra. It's you can't believe
Paul Simon,
Shelley Duvall, right? Like, it's just like, I always said Shelley Winters, but Shelley Winters and Shelley Duvall are like,
and Shelley Hack,
aren't they?
Shelley Hack is at the end. where she says, "Yeah, because we're, how do you keep your relationship? Because we're vacuous and have no ideas.
I don't have nothing interesting to say. I'm pretty much the same. Well, it sounds like you worked it out. Like it's great. I love this movie. It's so smart. It's so funny. It has so much emotion to it. You love them both. You're cheering for them. You're cheering for their relationship. You want them to figure it out in spite of the spiders and the lobsters and the other things with 8 legs that crawled around. But you kind of know they don't work together. Like, it's awesome. And, I remember you talking about it, Mark, and talking about how, clearly when Harry Met Sally, was very influenced. Now I'm like, okay, obviously. Even to the point where the female character in Alvy Sargent's play is named Sally, which I feel like can't be an accident. But I loved every frame of this movie. I am so excited that I discovered it now. Because it means that now I have a bunch of Woody Allen movies I need to watch. Right. And it brings me joy on every level.
That's great.
Yeah.
And there's an animated sequence. Yeah,
exactly. Where it's like the evil queen and she's got nips. It's crazy. And she's like, of course I don't have to menstruate. I'm a cartoon character. It's awesome.
I think you could sit down and watch any Woody Allen movie between Annie Hall and Crimes and Misdemeanors and almost not go wrong. Mm-hmm. There's only 1 or 2 in there that are tough going, but most of them are terrific.
I love this movie.
Yeah, but I think he should watch Hannah and Zelig, and Crimes and Misdemeanors and Husbands and Wives. But
I will. And you tell me what to watch, I will watch it.
You know what he really should watch next is Manhattan.
Yeah,
because he's on the whole Diane Keaton, Woody Allen thing. I mean, it's true. I mean, because she should be with Warren Beatty, but she's with Woody Allen.
I just love that scene in Annie Hall when after he's split with Annie and he's trying to recapture the magic with that next girlfriend with the lobsters, and he's doing the same shtick with the lobsters, and she's just
16 years. I don't get it. Is that a joke?
Yeah.
Are you joking with me right now?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. It's great, and it's a snapshot of New York of that era. I used to live after I graduated from college. I lived right near where some of the stuff was filmed, and I would walk down those streets, and I'd always think of Annie Hall, and it just captures New York of that era because obviously there's the Taxi Driver version, in Times Square, and then there's the Upper East Side version, which is Annie Hall. So it's so interesting to see New York because a couple years before it's all Serpico and French Connection and it looks like hell on earth, and then you get to Annie Hall and New York is like one, and particularly Manhattan, and New York is like magical and wonderful. But I'm so glad that this was your pick. I'm equally thrilled to hear how much you like the movie. I think it's a very special film, and particularly for those of us who are big Star Wars fans, I know there's a lot of resentment over the years built up over this film.
Fanny Hall.
But and it's true. I mean, when you look at it, it's not just a romantic comedy. A lot of stuff we take for granted now, but it was so groundbreaking then, breaking the fourth wall, how meta it was with Marshall McLuhan, at the time.
That was awesome.
All that stuff.
I didn't teach anything.
And such great, just performances and, the nonlinear structure. So that there really is, a lot that was really groundbreaking, and less so because that movie's been ripped off so much by so many people.
Oh, and it's not a happy ending. And I love that final monologue. It's just leaves you on such that sort of bittersweet note.
But perfect. Yeah. But you don't feel like at the end of it. You feel like weirdly uplifted by it. Like a good thing has happened. It doesn't matter that they're not together because they had this impact on each other. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that he thinks about her and the way that he does is ultimately a very positive thing, and vice versa. You feel that way. And I think that's great.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's also like their relationship too. I mean, Diane and Woody dated for a long time, and they still are very close, but they moved on in life. So it's a great movie. I'm so glad you liked it. Which of course brings us to Thursday, and now the ball is in my court, and I can't give a litany of choices because I only watch one. I watch one film.
There's only one movie you've missed.
So and that film is a movie I've wanted to watch for a very long time and finally got around to seeing, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. We've talked about it a lot. No, I've seen that movie once or twice. No,
the movies we've seen a lot.
I you know, I don't know how this happened, but Steve was there. We used to do these back at Comic-Con. We do these panels inside the writers' room with a bunch of writers and showrunners and stuff. And Ashley, of course, was there too. And we do it on Saturdays at Comic-Con, and that on Saturday nights we'd have this dinner at Morton's. And I guess it was a couple of years ago, Ron Moore joined us because he was there to promote Outlander, and he came to the dinner. And somehow we got in this conversation about great movies that we've never seen that we should have. And it was really funny because we had the same movies on our list. One of them was Days of Heaven. The other one was my pick for tonight. And that is Harold and Maude.
I should like to change into a sunflower most of all. They're so tall and simple. What flower would you like to be?
I don't know. One of these, maybe?
Why do you say that?
Because they're all alike.
Oh, but they're not. Look, see, some are smaller, some are fatter, some grow to the left, some to the right. Some even have lost some petals, all kinds of observable differences. You see, Harold, I feel that much of the world's sorrow comes from people who are this, yet allow themselves to be treated as that.
Well, I think it's fine building jumbo planes.
Oh,
And I had never seen Harold and Maude, and but I've rectified that great oversight in my movie-going oeuvre. And I don't know if Ron Moore has, but he should see it.
Did you watch was there a Criterion disc of that came
in
out
fact, there is, sir.
Yes.
And here
There
we
it
are.
is.
Wait, why is it always? There we go. Wait.
No.
There we go.
There you go.
So there we go. There's a beautiful Criterion release of this wonderful film from Hal Ashby. Of course, this is a movie in which Bud Cort, who plays Harold, he enjoys going to funerals and faking his own death. In a way, it's kind of like Ordinary People. And he at one of these funerals, he meets the wonderful Ruth Gordon, who plays Maude, who's just full of joy de vivre and a love of life and just absolutely borderline crazy. And later we kind of find, yeah, okay, who's crazy. She's like her character in Rosemary's Baby, but in this one doesn't worship the devil. And
as far as we know,
yeah.
The movie is directed by Colin Higgins, and I have to say, I made a mistake when I talked about Foul Play a couple of weeks ago, because of course Colin Higgins, not Curtis Hanson, was the director of Foul Play, and he wrote the script for Harold and Maude. He had hoped to produce it as a play. He wanted to direct it, but Paramount didn't think he was ready to direct it, so they gave it to that iconoclastic, Hal Ashby. And anybody who knows him, he's actually in the movie. He has that long beard, and he directed movies like Being There, and just really quirky, odd guy. And he shot beautifully by John Alonzo. Famous for such movies as Star Trek Generation.
That's right.
But Chinatown, for instance. And it features a bunch of songs from Cat Stevens. And anyone who went to college is familiar with the work of Cat Stevens. I've always actually been a big fan of his. This is a really bizarre and wonderful and quirky and delightful film. This is from the age where black comedy could be... It's shot like art. It's so beautifully shot. The compositions, the look of this film, the mise en scène. I find that like a lot of, once you get to the 80s, as much as I love a lot of those John Landis comedies and stuff, everything's like a master shot and overs. And this movie is shot like a movie. I mean, it's stunning, and it's really well shot, and the performances are phenomenal, and it never makes you as uncomfortable as it probably should, given the age difference in the relationships. But Bud Cort is just so terrific, and he, his uptight, rich mother who is trying to set him up with all these girls, and who's just really put off by how weird he is, and it kind of is the hangover of the counterculture, because this came out in 1971, right on the heels. It's Nixon, Law and Order. It's on the heels of the Summer of Love in 1968 and Woodstock, and now you can sort of see Bud Cort is sort of, his character sort of lost, because his mother is really uptight, and you could totally voted for Nixon, and her brother, his uncle, is an army colonel who basically wants Bud Cort. I mean, there's a great sequence where Bud Cort is she wants him to go to military school and enroll, be in the military, and him and Ruth Gordon concoct this way to get out of it. That's just so charming and delightful, and I just loved the movie. I thought it was great, and it's the kind of movie they don't make anymore. We say that a lot on the show, but truly this is a movie that doesn't fit in any box, even Ashley's box. And I was fascinated when I started doing a little research on the movie after I watched it, because the best movies make you want to learn more about them. And, thanks to Criterion, I was able to watch a lot of special features. But apparently, I guess Colin Higgins had been pitching a sequel, and there were two sequels that they hoped to do. One was Harold's story, which would have followed Bud Cort, but then he wanted to do, this is amazing, this would have been like the Avengers of Harold and Maude. He wanted to do a crossover, or maybe more like WandaVision. He wanted to do a crossover between Ruth Gordon's Maude and Richard Pryor's character from Silver Streak, and they would work together, like stealing cars and doing all this stuff, and it would be like a buddy comedy between Ruth Gordon and Richard Pryor. And I mean, anybody who's seen that delicious comedy thriller Silver Streak with Patrick McGowan as the villain, I mean, I would have paid real money to see that with Richard Pryor.
Ruth Gordon's such a screw loose in Harold and Maude. I mean, isn't one of her first scenes, she's like stealing a tree or something? You're like,
well, they steal a tree because it's dying, and they want to plant it somewhere where it'll get enough sun to thrive. And then, of course, she stole the car by this cop, and then she leaves him in the dirt. It's so, and that cop is Tom Skerritt from Alien.
And picket fences.
Yeah, and picket fences. Yeah, thanks, Darren.
For the younger people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, really? How much younger? But it's some of the early choices for the role that Bud Cort plays so marvelously, and he comes across much younger, and so it makes it even creepier. But Richard Dreyfuss was being considered, John Savage, John Rubinstein, some interesting choices, but Bud Cort is just so perfect, and I think this is the role that really haunted him the rest of his career. Everyone knew him from this movie.
Well, it's the role that kept people from hiring him.
Yeah,
because he's so creepy.
Yeah, such an indelible performance, and such a weird role in this movie, the weird relationship that, I don't know, it always made me uncomfortable in a good way.
Yeah, I'm really sort of mortified that I said Curtis Hanson for foul play when it was Colin Higgins. I
You know what? I think Curtis Hanson directed a version of it with Sally Field.
Of course, Bud Cort was the voice of the computer in Electric Dreams.
Oh, that's right.
Madeline, I love you too.
Which is still not on Blu-ray.
I want to.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's on DVD, Electric Dreams.
I love Electric Dreams.
Which is interesting because it's not available on any electronic media.
I wonder if
it's so ironic. I love Electric Dreams.
But Harold and Maude's great. I'm not quite sure why I've never seen it. I know a lot of people who love this movie, and for some reason it just eluded me. And I guess maybe the description didn't seem that appealing. But I'm so glad I watched it, and I'm going to call up Rod Moore and tell him he should watch it too.
Yeah, I had a girlfriend that loved this movie, and that should have been a warning. Especially
right?
especially because she wasn't in her 70s. So, it's just one of those things. I should have known.
But it's also so subtle because you wonder how did Ruth Gordon get to be like this? And then there's a very brief moment, late in the film where he looks down and realizes she has numbers tattooed on her arm and that she was a concentration camp survivor. And it's that kind of thing. Blink if you could make, and you miss it.
Blink and you miss it. Yeah.
And you guys know, if you tried to do that on TV today, you get the note from the network. No, she has to say, well, let me tell you why I'm like this. It's because back when I lived in Vienna and was put in a concentration, because what if they're, they miss it. They don't see it. They may not make the connection. They won't know what those numbers are. And it's like, and I liked that the movie didn't feel it needed to spell things out for you.
Right.
And
that's how movies used to be.
Yeah.
People
went to movies to actually watch the movies and not look at their phones or,
And that's something we didn't even talk about, I guess, that much when we did our whole The Future of Movies. As much as we may love to watch movies at home, do you watch them with the same just complete rapt attention that you do in the theater? No. I gotta say I don't. I'll pick up my phone or I'll be distracted by a noise or the cat will jump on the sofa. And it's not the same as in a theater.
We talked about this a little bit. Like in the theater, I think I said we watch the movie on its terms. When you're at home, you watch it on your terms. And even a little bit like Cinema Paradiso, that's subtitled. You have to be watching the screen to read the subtitles and know what's going on. But even then, I paused it a couple of times and got up and got some snacks and it's a different experience.
Yeah. I give it that attention, but I have to make myself give it that attention. But that's a choice. It's like it would be so easy just to go, well, whatever, and I'm kind of half-ass watching it. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I was just raised to sort of sit and watch things. I know I am trying to teach my children, especially my eldest, that when we watch a movie or when we're really watching a show, like it's The Mandalorian, whatever, that we're watching it. And we don't do a running goddamn commentary on it while we're watching it, because that's rude. We don't do anything but watch until it is done.
Although I have to say, Steve said something before we started today, which cracked me up because we always encourage the kids. We say it's very important to stay through the credits and watch the credits to honor the people that worked on the movie. It's not just the director and the writers, it's all these craftspeople. So Steve says, so I'm watching The Mandalorian and in the credits, it says Bib Fortuna. And he's like, wait a second, Bib Fortuna wasn't in this episode. And then sure enough, there's a closing sequence, there's after the credits with Bib Fortuna and Boba Fett. And it's like, it totally gave the game away. And if I made my kids, watch those credits, it would have ruined a great moment for them.
I also like to watch the credits because that's sort of like when you come out of the spell of the movie, especially when it's a movie with a great score. You're listening to that beautiful overture score that kind of replays the movie and lets you transition from the dream world of the movie back to reality. Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's another thing I'm trying to teach Caden is that it's not just you kind of sit and use that time to let the movie wash over you. It's also that we are paying our respect to the people who worked on that film.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a way of saying thank you. It's like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to watch your name. Even if I have no idea who you are, I might watch your name scroll by. I don't even read it, but at least I'm sitting there. I mean, maybe that's just an artifact of working in the industry, but
but it's more than that, because even as a kid, I would remember, I wouldn't know anything about casting, but then I kept seeing Lynn Stalmaster's credit. And, on Superman and other things, I started to realize he'd done this and he'd done that. And it's and then as I watched the credits, I would see certain names continue to reappear on different movies, and it helped with my understanding of what people did in the industry and the kinds of films and the eras that they worked. And I don't know. I think it's really important. But yeah, first and foremost, it's a sign of respect to the people that worked on these movies and gave so much.
And oddly enough, probably about the only occasion when I do get up and leave during the credits is at the Telluride Film Festival that's there to celebrate these films, but like I got to get over to the other theater for the next, get in line for the next thing. Like I'm out.
But now you have
felt
like
bad about it.
Yeah,
ideally you'd have the tickets for the seat, so you can just go.
Yeah. No, but that was always, you always felt guilty because you're usually in the condition where you would, watch all the credits, but as soon as the movie's over, it's like right out the door.
Mark's always on the aisle, and I'm always next to him. And like, okay, we're out. You get your stuff gathered up, and you're like, we're gone.
But it's so funny because my like we were watching Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and my son's now conditioned by Marvel movies. He goes, "Is there a post-credit sequence?" And I'm like,
"Yeah, Mr. Smith joins the goddamn Avengers. What are you thinking? Oh, Captain America, I'm here."
I'm like, no. There isn't one.
Iron Man.
Yeah, it's setting up Rear Window. So that he goes.
The Alfred Hitchcock shared universe.
I like that. I watched that. In fact, there was a thing on the internet today. It was a great mashup of Star Wars and North by Northwest. It was Cary Grant on the Millennium Falcon, and it was really well done. And it was funny because obviously those are two huge touchstones for me, two of my favorite movies. So I really enjoyed it. You should check it out. But this
Kaplan Solo?
That was McClunky. But this was a great show. We should do this again.
Obviously, there's no Friday.
Right. Well, you know what? We should ask our viewers, our listeners, to nominate or tell us about movies that they haven't seen that they wish they had.
Or we can encourage them to watch movies they've heard about on the show that they haven't seen.
And tell us
watch it and let us know what they thought. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about, and you can go to 430 Movie Podcast on Twitter or the 430 Movie on Facebook.
And especially since, we don't have many new movies coming out, it's a great opportunity to catch up on some classics that you maybe missed.
And it's easier than ever. Well, we encourage you to use physical media primarily. We know it's difficult for both cost and availability, but now there's never been more availability via streaming, whether it be via Disney Plus or Netflix or Amazon Prime or HBO Max or the Criterion channel. So many great ways to watch movies these days, even if you're not someone who purchases or has a library of physical media like we have.
Right.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, I was happy to open the shrink wrapping on Harold and Maude. Anytime I could take the shrink wrapping off of
the shrimp wrap.
The shrimp wrap.
I'm a big fan. I haven't seen Harold and Maude in years, but I bought that Criterion Blu-ray and it's on my shelf and I've been meaning to watch it again. So this is
and it's short. It's like 93 minutes. It's brisk. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And, Ruth Gordon's just hysterical. I mean, she's hysterical in Rosemary's Baby, which, by the way, I also neglected to mention during Criterion Week because it was on a different shelf. And so I forgot about Rosemary's Baby. And, not only one of my favorite movies, my favorite horror movies, but also one of my favorite Criterion discs. I was so thrilled when they came out with it. There were a couple. Charade was a Criterion disc I didn't mention because that was also on another shelf. Because I have like some of my favorite movies outside on a different shelf.
In a place of honor.
Yeah, and then so they're easily accessible. And then also, like certain directors get their own section, like Spielberg, and then the Star Trek movies and all that stuff. So they weren't in the Criterion section. So I neglected to mention them. But this was I thought this worked out, this New Year's resolution.
Yeah. I've got a couple. I got some more that I could hold for the next time we do this.
Fantastic. I think we all do. I mean, there are plenty. Like, what's a movie on the show that you've heard that you really want to watch? I mean,
there's Cinema Paradiso.
Like I think when we did like Sports Week, I managed to not see anything that you got, like The Natural and like all kinds of things. And I was like, I need to watch that and that and that. Like,
oh yeah, those are all worth seeing. Yeah.
Well, the one that I see on here is The Sure Thing. I've never seen it.
My God!
I've seen The Sure
Thing. Have to see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You should see that. I think anything we've said. I mean, I got to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So, and Lucas.
Lucas is great.
So
yeah, what I love is how Lucas shows up at the end of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. And on that note, thank you for joining us for the 4:30 movie. We'll be back with an all-new episode, and welcome to a whole new year of 4:30 movie here in 2021. Hopefully a better year for everybody. And to all our listeners.
Are we going to recap?
Oh, yeah, we need to.
We're going to recap. We're going to recap. I just wanted to say, we've been getting a lot of emails from people listening to the podcast who have lost or had relatives who are very sick, who've talked about how much the podcasts have kept them laughing during very difficult times. And it really means a lot to us. You know, I was saying to Darren that, sometimes we joke about, oh my God, why do we do the show? Or, it's so much time commitment. And we get these emails about, one person was telling us about how this was on Inglorious TREKSPERTS, how his father was, dying in the hospital, and he wasn't even going to be able to see him. And he was waiting to hear what happened. He was in the car for 3 hours and he wasn't even let in the hospital. And, he listening to the podcast kept him sane for that time that he was waiting to hear from the doctors. And we've gotten a couple of those emails now, both about 4:30 movie and Inglorious TREKSPERTS during these really tough times, how much the show has meant to them. So we just want to say to you, our audience, how much you mean to us. And thank you, for all the wonderful things you've said and the support, because there'd be no point doing the show if there was no one there to hear it. So, so thank you. And now let's look back at our New Year's resolutions, 2021. Steve Melching, Monday.
Monday is Cinema Paradiso.
Tuesday
is Ordinary People.
Wednesday,
the second greatest film of 1977, Annie Hall.
Damnation Alley being the first.
Well, right. I was going to say Sorcerer was a close second until I saw Annie Hall.
Whoa.
I got to get Annie Hall. I love Sorcerer, dude.
I'll buy that for $1. Thursday,
also awesome.
It's
Go ahead.
Harold and Maude. And Friday, we ask you to weigh in with your thoughts for what New Year's resolution, what film should you have seen that's in your blind spot that you're going to check out and watch, and let us know.
You pick the winner.
So until next week, on behalf of Ashley, Steve, Darren, and myself, Mark Altman, we want to send a special shout out and thank you to our sound engineer, Bill Ritter, who has been working so hard all year long to make us sound good, particularly via Zoom while we've been out of the studio, and we'll continue to be out of the studio for the foreseeable future. Our production coordinator, Peter Holmstrom, our production associate, Zach Raggets, and of course our producer, Natalie Muscali. But until next week, thanks for joining us. Eyewitness News starts now.
This week's episode is brought to you by Mega Dodo Productions, publishers of the Encyclopedia Galactica and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't panic!
This show is produced by Dean Devlin and Mark A. Altman and is an Electric Surge Network production. Engineered by Bill Ritter for the Electric Surge Network.